if it's the first time that you're doing this class with me, what I've been doing is first we start with a little bit of breathing, and then we talk about some of the Yoga Sutras, and I've been trying to follow in the order that I've been doing already. So if you missed them, they're on the YouTube channel. And I'll be doing this week and next week, and then I'm going to Paris, and then I'll come back and I'll continue. Okay? So come to sit for a moment first with the eyes closed and the back long. Bringing ourselves inwards so we get in the mind state to be able to absorb the teachings. Feeling like you can feel the body from the inside out. Relaxing the pelvis, so the pelvis and the legs, the hips are all relaxed. So you feel steady and stable in your sitting position. And elongating the spine out from this pelvic bowl. Allowing the head to feel light on top of the spine. Relaxing the arms in a way that the legs can take the weight of the arms. So just place the hands in the lap or on the thighs. And then start to bring the awareness to the breath. At first, just noticing the breath. Noticing the inhales, noticing the exhales. Notice if the breathing feels even between the two nostrils. If one nostril feels a little bit more closed than the other. If one feels a little bit too closed, you can take a little towel or a sweater and put it under the armpit of the opposite nostril. And then you squeeze that little towel. It can help open both nostrils a little bit more evenly. We're going to start to apply the sound of Ujjayi. So making a soft sound with both the inhales and the exhales. Trying to make the inhales and the exhales the same length. Then if it feels comfortable for you, you're going to start to double the length of the exhalation. So that if you inhale, for example, if you inhale to the count of 4, try to exhale to the count of 8. It should never feel strained, it should feel comfortable. If it feels strained, then you can shorten the count of the inhale so that the exhale can be the same length, it can be double the length. And we're going to prepare to do Nadi Shodhana. So if you know Nadi Shodhana, then you can go ahead and practice at your very own breathing rhythm. If you're not sure, then you place the hand in this mudra where you close the first finger and the middle finger, and you bring the ring finger and the little finger towards one another. So it's like this, and we use the thumb to close the right nostril and the ring finger to close the left nostril. Okay, so I'm going to talk you through. Exhale fully. Close the right nostril, inhale through the left. Close the left nostril, exhale through the right. Inhale right. Exhale left. That's one round of Nadi Shodhana. So inhale left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Exhale left. Inhale left. Exhale right. Inhale right. Exhale left. And then continue at your own breathing rhythm, trying to double your exhalation. Just finish the round that you're working on. When you finished, replace the hand. Bring the palms together at the front of the chest. We'll chant Om, inhaling. Then rub the palms together, warming up the hands. Place the hands over the eyes, opening the eyes behind the palms. And when you're ready, releasing. So, quite a while ago, what we had talked about was Sutra 1.30, which was listing the obstacles to mental clarity. So if you have your Yoga Sutra book, you can open it to Sutra 130. It's chapter 1 of the Yoga Sutras, Sadhana Pada, and the 30th sutra in that pada. So in that sutra, we learned that there's a lot of different things that are obstacles to us finding clarity of mind. And I'll just say them quickly in English. So they were sickness or disease, mental laziness or dullness, doubt, carelessness or inattentiveness, sloth or physical laziness, overindulgence in sensual pleasures, illusion about one's own state of mind, non-attainment of the stages of yoga, and regression or failure to hold on to the stage of yoga that we have attained. Okay, so all those things, they are obstacles for us finding a calm, clear mind. And then the next sutra, Sutra 1.31, are the symptoms of mental distractions. So these are the things that can happen when we do not have a clear mind, okay? When we're not able to calm our mind. So I'll read them out in Sanskrit and in English. So dukkha, which means suffering or sorrow or unsatisfactoriness. Dharmansya, which is depression. Angam Ajayatva, which is limb tremors, shaking of the limbs. Shvasa, prashvasa, which is faulty inhalation and exhalation, our breathing. Vikshepa, distraction. Sahabhuvaha, so accompanying. So these are the things that accompany our mental distractions. So let me get my notes here. So the way we could say it, all in one sutra in English would be suffering, depression, trembling of the body, faulty inhalations and exhalations are connected with the distractions. So let's look at them one by one. So we look at dukkha. So have you all heard this term before? No, dukkha. It's suffering. So the dukkha together, it means bad space. The opposite of dukkha is sukha, which is good space. So dukkha is resting in a bad space, basically. Or there's other commentators, they can translate it as suffering or unsatisfactoriness. I like that one because I think it really gives a very good view of what we are often, how we are walking around this world. We feel unsatisfied with the way things are. So according to Vyasa is the first known commentator of the Yoga Sutras, of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. He says there are 3 types of suffering. Adhyatmika, my pronunciation in Sanskrit is so-so, which means arising from oneself. So suffering that comes from within. Adibhautika, which is suffering that is created by another creature, another human, another animal. Or adidaivikya, so through natural calamity, right? So like a tornado, a hurricane, things like this. So our suffering can come from within ourselves, can come from others, and it can come from the environment. And I think the suffering that is within oneself is, in a way, the hardest to control, because it kind of relates to the others as well. Because the way we interpret how somebody behaves to us will create that suffering within. The way we handle the natural disasters, because we could look at COVID almost like a natural disaster. The way we interpret that within is going to make more suffering. So you've probably heard the phrase that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Because we're all going to experience pain. That is part of this life, right? Sometimes the back hurts, sometimes you have a cold, we're stressed about something, we're anxious about something. So we're going to experience these things in our life, but we don't have to make it worse than it is. We don't have to add to it. We don't have to experience this extra suffering. So what Vyasa also says is that sorrow is that which upsets creatures who try for its removal. Sorrow is that which upsets creatures who try for its removal. So sorrow is when we are trying to change things, right? I want to change the way things are. I cannot accept the way things are. It doesn't mean that we don't act in the world and we make actions to better ourselves or better our situations, or like cure COVID, wear a mask when we need to. It doesn't mean this, but if we are too resistant to the fact that we have to wear a mask, for example, then we're going to create more suffering. Does that make sense? Yeah. And like I said, I really like the translation of unsatisfactoriness, because I can see in myself that when I'm doing things like I look around the house, oh, there's some dirt there. Oh, those curtains, they really need changing. Oh, we're so easily to look around and find ways to improve things, right? And this is what I tell myself, oh, but I'm just trying to improve it, which makes it sound like a positive thing. But if I look deeper, it's like I'm never satisfied, right? Oh, my yoga practice, I could get better at this asana. Oh, I could breathe a little better. Maybe I could do more yoga practice. you know, whatever. The list is endless in the way that we can look around at ourselves, at others, at our partners, at our friends, our children. Oh, if only, you know, my kids were like this or my husband was like that, then it would be better, right? Instead of looking within and trying to find that satisfaction with what is, right? So it causes us, I think it causes us a lot of pain. And I also like the bad space and good space, right? If I'm in a bad space, then I'm going to suffer more, right? It's not that, you know, you can be ill, for example, because that's one of the obstacles, and it's very difficult to have a clear mind when we're ill. But if I can rise above that and I can be ill, but find this equanimity within, and I can kind of not accept in a apathetic way, but accept in an equanimous way, then I'm going to reduce my suffering, right? Then the next one is depression, dharmanasya. So this is from Vyasa. So dejection is caused through non-fulfillment of desire or when wished for things do not happen, okay? Dejection, which means depression, is caused through non-fulfillment of desire or when wished for things do not happen. So I want something and I'm not happy that I'm not getting it and I feel depressed, right? I want something to happen. I want to achieve second series. I want to be able to do a drop back. And then if that isn't happening, then I could end up feeling kind of depressed about that, right? And we need to watch ourselves because it's, you know, in a way that's very, very superficial, right? It's not that we don't work on those asanas. It's not that we don't find all the proper alignment and proper way to do them without injuring ourselves. We can do all that. It's not that we don't add perseverance to our practice. We want to persevere through our personal practices, through our personal trying to make ourselves more peaceful and more compassionate human beings. We want to persevere through all this, but at the same time, we can't cling to it, right? When we cling to it, then it can cause depression, dejection. And then the next one, so this shakiness in the body as a symptom. So I think we've all experienced this, right? When you're nervous, right? When you're waiting for something, you know, you have an exam. I think about when I did my driving license exam here in France. Oh my God. You know, it's hard to sit still, right? Or if you look at a young person with their leg, right? They're shaking the foot, constantly shaking the foot, you know, sitting at the table and the leg is shaking. These are tremors in the body. I'm restless. I'm unable to sit still and calm, right? So this is a reflection of our mind, our mental disturbances or calmness. When we can sit still and be at peace, then it helps. It is a reflection that hopefully the mind is a little more still. Although we all know that when we've been practicing yoga asana for a while, we're able to sit very still and look very peaceful from the outside. But sometimes the mind is still a little bit shaky. So it doesn't mean that the mind is completely undisturbed, but it's helpful. So what Vyasa stated, the upsetting of bodily equilibrium or steadiness results in shakiness of the body. The upsetting of bodily equilibrium or steadiness results in shakiness of the body. So we want to find this equanimous place in our body so that we can maintain holding a pose. Right? If you think about if you want to practice pranayama, if your body is too agitated, you're not going to be able to practice pranayama for very long, or you're always going to be moving. If you want to sit and watch your thoughts, reflection, deep listening, it's going to be hard if you're not able to sit still. Right? Even think about a lecture. If you're very uncomfortable in the body, your mind is going to keep going away from the concentration on the lecture. Meditation, all these examples. So these are, one of my goals is to try to bring this not only to our yoga mat or our meditation cushion, but also how do we bring this out into our daily life. So I think one of the things is to start looking at ourselves and noticing when I'm eating my lunch or eating my dinner, am I able to maintain some stillness? Or are my legs shaking underneath the table? When I'm sitting at the office, am I able to have a certain amount of stillness in my body, right? When I'm with a friend and my friend is telling me a story about their day, am I able to maintain some stillness in my body? So we can bring this to a moment-to-moment practice. Doesn't only have to be on your meditation cushion. When we're in our yoga asana, yoga Ashtanga, if you're all practicing Ashtanga, well, this is kind of like a moving meditation. But we also hold the poses for 5 to 20 breaths, depending on the pose. When I'm holding the pose, am I agitated? Am I constantly trying to rearrange my fingers, my pelvis, my shoulders? Am I constantly trying to get deeper into the pose? Or do I go into the pose and settle and I hold it for those 5, 10, 20 breaths? Right? Am I satisfied with that version of the pose? Or do I have to keep modifying it? Right? Okay, so then about the inhales and the exhales, the faulty breathing. This is what Vyasa says. The ordinary process of taking in the breath and exhaling the same is also associated with mental distraction. These disturbances generally take place in a distracted state of mind. They do not appear in a reposeful mind. I'll read it again. The ordinary process of taking in the breath and exhaling the same is also associated with mental distraction. These disturbances generally take place in a distracted state of mind. They do not appear in a reposeful mind. So we just think about our breath, right? When we're sitting and we're calm, we're in our meditation or our pranayama, our breathing is calm. When we are feeling peaceful, our breathing is calm. When we start to get agitated, it agitates our breath. When we're stressed or anxious, our breath becomes stressed and anxious. When you're angry, the breath becomes very short and fast, right? When you're very dull, maybe you're not breathing deeply. It stays very shallow breathing, right? When you feel very lethargic and dull in the mind, dull in the body, lazy in the body, these kinds of things, it affects our breath. when so this gives us the explanation to really use our breath in our asana practice to notice, to affect our central nervous system and affect our mind. If during my practice I'm breathing too quickly, or I'm not having any control over my breath, I have to breathe out through my mouth, these kinds of things is going to be a reflection of the state of my mind while I'm doing my yoga asana. Now, I'm not saying, because sometimes we can use our yoga asana as a way to increase our muscle tone, to increase our heart rate and our breathing. So it can be a well-being practice, not only for the mind, right? According to Patanjali, yoga practice is for the mind, right? But we know that in other yoga sciences, like you think about the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, Lisa yesterday was telling us in Ayurveda that yoga asana is for the health and well-being of the body. For our body to be healthy, we also need to put a little bit of stress on it, right? We need to, I'm not talking about flexible, I'm not saying to over stress the muscles when stretching, but when trying to increase muscle tone, right? Build muscle tone, we need to work a little bit harder. And to increase our endurance and our stamina, sometimes we have to go a little bit more, than what is comfortable. Okay, so we also have to separate and understand our objective. So if maybe at the beginning of our yoga practice, if you're brand new to Ashtanga, you might be working and you're not athletic at all, you haven't been doing anything, your body is not in very good shape, you might need to go a little bit too strong, and your breathing might be more like an athletic breath. Right? Only breathing through the nose though, not through the mouth. If you have to breathe through the mouth, it's telling you you're going too far. But maybe your breath will be a little bit shorter for some time. But once you stabilize the body and you want to get more stability through the nervous system and the mind, then we can start to regulate our breathing more during our asana practice. But thinking about our daily life, we can bring our mind to our breath from every so often. I use a mindfulness bell because I notice that even if I'm working on the computer, I can get, depending on what I'm doing, either my breath can become very shallow, right? Because I'm kind of bored, I'm not really attentive, I'm doing accounting, which makes me have that kind of breath, or I might be really involved in what I'm doing and maybe a little bit anxious about what I'm doing, and then I see that I'm breathing very quickly, right? So if I use my mindfulness bell every 30 minutes or 45 minutes, it goes off, I close my eyes, I detach myself from the screen, and I go inside and I notice the state of my breath. And so it can help us keep bringing ourselves back to our breathing throughout the day. So it doesn't only have to be on the cushion, right? It's good to do those because those different, like Nadi Shodhana, like what we just did, it equilibrates our nervous system. Those are very good as well. So let's see. Let's go on to the next sutra. It's Sutra 1.32. So I'll go through each word individually. So if you have a Yoga Sutra commentary in front of you, tat. Tat, it means there or of those. Pratisheda means prevention. Artam, for. Eka tattva, single essence or single reality. Abhyasaha, practice. So if you put this all together in a nice, easy to understand phrase, for their prevention, practice of a single principle. So what does this mean? For the prevention of those symptoms that we just saw, right? Depression and dukkha, the breathing. And the shaking. So to prevent those, we practice a single principle. So we focus on a single principle. So most commentators will refer this to Ishvara, right? Which is the personal God, the Lord. Okay, so the ultimate reality, however you want to term it, but to bring our awareness towards that, to focus our mind on that, our single principle, really narrowing in and concentrating on this. But also another way to look at it, it is said to find a meditation practice and go deep, right? So find a single meditation practice and use it over and over and over and over again. Like when we use yoga asana, our Ashtanga practice, we do the same practice over and over and over again, because then it goes very, very deep, right? We understand those asanas. The more you practice something, the better you are at it, right? So if you have a single point of concentration, so let's say I use the heart center, okay? So the I from Ramana Maharishi. This is my main meditation practice. So if I use that, then I find that when I sit, it's easier for me to go deep into that. If I'm changing it all the time, it takes me a little bit more time to find that, single awareness, right? Before, for a long time, I did from Yogananda, the Self-Realization Fellowship. I was doing some of their meditations, which was looking to the third eye. And same thing, then I experienced a lot of things from doing this. Whereas if I change it day to day, then you don't get the deeper experiences. So it could be looked at like this, but also think about on our daily basis, mindfulness. So that when I'm doing this lecture, I'm present on that lecture. Right? I'm not going and thinking, what are my kids doing upstairs? Oh, what do I have to do tomorrow? Oh, I'm hungry, or, whatever we may be thinking about. If you're going to read a book, this one I find just amazing, because I think that I'm going to read this book, and before I know it, my mind has went somewhere else, right? But to really understand, especially any kind of spiritual book, it's easy to read a novel, right? But any kind of spiritual book, I really need to always keep bringing myself back, because otherwise I find I'm just reading words and I'm not absorbing them. I'm not understanding them. And I even like with the Yoga Sutras, for example, I like to read the words and then close my eyes and see if I can understand the words from inside, not just intellectually. Sometimes I'll look up, even in English words, I like to look it up in the dictionary and understand the dictionary meaning, which will help me understand the meaning of that word in a deeper way, because we often use words in our day-to-day language, but we might not understand the word in a deeper way. So I find that can be very helpful as well. So practicing mindfulness. So in everything that we do, if you're at work, try to be focused on your work. If you're with your kids, try to be focused on being with your kids. If you're with your friends, You're focused on being with your friends, trying not to let the mind slip away all the time. When you come to your yoga mat, you're in your yoga practice. And in a way, it's kind of hard when you've been practicing for a while, because once those asanas have become very comfortable to you, then familiar to you, it can be easy to practice the asanas and plan your day, plan your lecture, think about your art project. It can be easy to do this kind of thing so that you're kind of moving through the motions. The body is moving, but the mind is somewhere else. And so we need to keep bringing it back to the bandhas, the breathing, the skin, the sensation in the skin, these kinds of things. So we stay on that single principle. Okay, the next one. This one's a big one, actually. So Sutra 1.33, 133. So this, I think, is one of my favorite sutras, I should say. So it relates a lot to Buddhism as well. You find the same principles in Buddhism. In fact, there's a lot of correlation between Buddhism and the Yoga Sutras. So Maitri means friendliness or loving kindness. Karuna, compassion. Mudita, gladness or delight. Upekshanam, equanimity. Sukha, joyful, happiness. Dukkha, sorrowful. Punya, apunya is virtuous or vice, or merit or non-virtuousness. Vishayanam, objects. Bhavanatash, cultivating attitudes. Chitta, it's the mind stuff or the consciousness. Prasadanam, clearing or purifying. So, by cultivating attitudes of friendliness towards the happy, gladness towards the virtuous, equanimity towards the non-virtuous, the consciousness clears or purifies. It's hard though. It sounds easier said than done. So the four positive feelings are friendliness, compassion, gladness, equanimity. They're called the Brahma Viharas in Buddhism. Brahma Viharas. So they're the four great immeasurables. The four immeasurables. So let's look at Maitri. Maitri means friendliness. So we want to cultivate happiness or friendliness towards those who are happy. Okay, so that can be easy towards, your children or, your husband, or even there's can be some competition even with your husband or your wife or your boyfriend or your girlfriend. But we want to cultivate happiness rather than, for example, jealousy or comparing, right? Sometimes it can be difficult. Even your closest friends, if they're happy about something, for instance, if it's something you're not after, like let's say they play a beautiful musical instrument. I don't play any musical instrument and I have no ambition to do so. So I can be very happy for somebody who plays a beautiful musical instrument, creates songs and things like this. Whereas it's going to be harder to be happy towards the person who, your best friend who achieves a yoga asana that you cannot achieve. right? That's going to be a little bit more difficult. I've been working just as hard as they have. I've even been practicing longer than they have. How come I cannot do it? This results in comparing, right? So this is not what we want to be doing. We want to cultivate happiness for that person, that your friend comes and they've just achieved the asana that you have never been able to do, right? No comparing, no jealousy, no envy. We want to cultivate happiness. It might not feel natural. We might need to kind of fake it, right? Fake it till we make it. I don't know if you've heard that phrase before, but it can work because it brings our mindfulness to it. Oh wow, I see that. Wow, that's weird. I feel this kind of slight jealousy about that. Why is that? You know, that I should be cultivating happiness for that friend that I care about so much, right? So cultivating friendliness towards those who are happy, or even think about a neighbor or somebody who is making more money than you or more successful than you in the same kind of business or a different kind of business, or gets better grades than you if you're studying. All these kinds of things. We want to cultivate happiness to all those people, whether you know them or you don't know them. Karuna means compassion. So we want to create compassion to those who are experiencing sorrow, dukkha. So somebody who is experiencing sorrow, sometimes we want to run away from that, right? Like on the street, when you see somebody on the street who looks very ragged and doesn't smell very good, we want to turn away. Right? Our instinct might be to not look there, right? Or to ignore them, just walk past like they don't mean anything, right? And especially in big cities, like I've lived in New York and Paris, and so you see a lot of this sorrowful, these people who are in great sorrow. And after a while, we might become a little bit numb to it. And so we just pass by without giving any attention to them. Or if we slow our mind down, we might even see that we don't want to see it for some reason or another, right? Because it's easier not to see that, right? Do you experience that? It's harder to see the sorrow in the world. So we want to create compassion towards that. So we want to look at the person, we want to see the person, we want to offer something, we want to offer a smile or an acknowledgement of existence, even if you don't offer money or food or something like this, right? Or we think about our friends that, you know, when we have a friend who is suffering a lot, we might, you know, like, because we suffer too, and sometimes hanging out with somebody who's suffering a lot, it feels like a weight on our shoulders, right? And we may not want to be there with them. We feel like we can't hold that. We don't have to hold the suffering. We don't need to take the suffering on our shoulders. It's not for us to bear the suffering, but we can offer our compassion. We can offer our ear. We can offer them the opportunity to express themselves, right? And this would be offering our compassion. Then mudita, which is gladness or sympathetic joy towards punya, virtuous. So those who are virtuous, somebody who's, for instance, you know, doing something great for the world, like all the people, the doctors, the nurses, the healthcare people who are helping at this time for the COVID. We want to give sympathetic joy for their success, for their, you know, their help. Somebody who is maybe doing something like they wrote a great book. They wrote a great book about yoga, which is going to help the world of yoga. We want to feel gladness for that. We don't want to think, oh, wow, oh, well, I could have wrote a book just like that. You know, I have just as much knowledge as that person, right? This is sometimes what kind of behavior that we can, you know, I exaggerate it, but we may have this kind of thought in our mind. We don't want to compare. Right? It's not about comparing. Oh, Bill Gates gave that so much money. Well, he has lots of money to give, so, you know, he should be giving that. We don't want to have that attitude. We want to have the, wow, that's, you know, I feel joyful that he's able, he has the means to help in this way, right? Next, so equanimity of mind. Upekshanam. So we want to cultivate equanimity of mind towards those apunya, who have vice. So those who are not behaving well in the world, right? Those who are maybe acting cruel or doing immoral behavior. Anything that we might look at and think that that's a bad person, right? That's an evil person. They shouldn't be doing that. They are wrecking the environment, you know, things like this. We want to have equanimity of mind, because then, in fact, we may be able to reverse it, right? Wagging a finger at somebody and being angry at somebody doesn't help the situation, right? Think about if you have, we've all been children, right? If somebody, when we were a child, if our parents yell at us for something, that we did something bad, it doesn't really help us, right? It might stop the behavior, but it really doesn't nourish us. It doesn't help us understand who we are and make us not want to do that behavior, because it doesn't make us feel good inside, and we are one with the other, so we don't want to hurt another, because there is a link between us and the others, right? We don't want to just learn not to do bad because being bad makes you a bad person, right? It's very superficial like this. We don't want to do bad because we are one with the other, and we cannot hurt ourselves, we cannot hurt others, right? And if we get angry with a situation, the steam comes out, right? And we're not going to have equanimity of mind to be able to deal with it, right? We think about the problems with the planet. Being angry isn't going to change it, but having equanimity of mind might give us the ability to find solutions that might help change the problems with global warming, pollution, and things like this, right? That makes sense? So, our goal is to keep a serene mind, and this sutra will help us a lot in our daily life, okay? To constantly bring ourselves back to this sutra. I think you could put sticky notes all over the place and remind yourself of this continuously, and I think it would change a lot our life. So we're going to take just a few minutes. If you need to sign out, I will not be offended. It's exactly 9 p.m. So if you have something you have to do, then you can sign out. Otherwise, we're going to do a little meditation that I like to do when I need to offer loving kindness, well-being to myself or to somebody else. Or I've often actually used this, I do this sometimes with the kids, but I also have done this in my life when I've had problems with somebody, like somebody's disturbing me a lot. Because I find that when somebody is disturbing me, then I feel angry or I don't like them, or, I want something bad to happen to them, not something really bad, but, little bad things to happen to them. And, that doesn't help me in my heart, right? So instead, I want to do this meditation to offer good things to those people. Okay, so come and sit, and you can decide I'm going to talk about offering it to ourselves, since I think many of us feel that it's hard to love ourselves. So I'm first going to offer it to ourselves, but you can also, instead of saying I mentally, you can replace it with another name if that feels appropriate for you. So closing the eyes, sitting up tall, starting to feel the body from the inside out. If you find it helpful, you can repeat out after me out loud. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be peaceful and at ease. Bring the hands in front of the chest. Let's practice Om Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaste.